Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. I'm Rob Nelson. Today, we're going to be joined by two guests. You know, usually on the Ninja Selling Podcast, we have a face-to-face conversation with one person. And today, as the facilitator of this, I'm going to step out because we have 80 years of real estate knowledge in front of us today. Larry Kendall and Paul Silverman. Paul, I want you to introduce yourself first because many of these people already know who Larry Kendall is, and we'll let him cover that. But tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've done in 30 years in real estate.
Well, good morning. And I wanted to say what an honor it is to be even sitting at this table doing this. So my name is Paul Silverman from Houston, Texas. I'm a native Houstonian. I've been in real estate since I graduated college, 1995, a couple different capacities, a lot of years in the building experience or the building side of the business. And since 2010 in the brokerage side. So I'm currently the director of agent growth for Martha Turner Sotheby's International Realty in Houston, Texas, where I've been in management since 2019. So the other really noteworthy thing that happened in my life in 2019, aside from going from agent into management, that was my first Ninja installation. I think I'd been a manager 6 weeks. And if I only knew how much it would change my life and the lives of everyone else that has taken it, I would have never believed you.
Yeah, we're sitting here and I can see Paul's backpack in front of me. And just like a general, you have a lineup of pins on your backpack. It looks like there's 7 of them. You've attended 7 Ninja events and you are the Commander Brigadier General Ninja.
Thank you.
Right there. And Larry Kendall, thank you for being here. You know, Larry, I think one of the things that is interesting is 50 years is a really long time, but you've done a lot of things in real estate. Give us Larry Kendall's 50 years in a nutshell.
Well, it went fast. The half a century really flew by. But I started out in sales as a salesperson and experienced some success there. I actually developed what's now called the Ninja System. I was my own experiment, my own guinea pig, if you will. It worked for me. Other people started to ask what I was doing. And before long, I found myself in management. And then, of course, we started our real estate company. But along the way, we were in the development business for a while. We developed lots and built houses, built office buildings, have had that side of it. We've developed a mortgage company, a title company, all of that. And then, of course, along the way, somebody asked me, can you train us or can you show us what you're doing? And that led to the Ninja Selling System.
So boots on the ground, management experience, all the tertiary businesses, including you served as a director of a bank for many, many years.
25 years I was on that bank holding company.
Yes, you've kind of seen it all. And if you weren't involved in it, you've touched it all. And I think one of the things that's really unique about real estate in life, we all know there are going to be the best of times and the worst of times. In real estate, that can happen in the same day. Things get really compacted and accelerated. But as we started this conversation today in preparation of this, the theme was uncertainty. And that sometimes it's more difficult to know whether it is the best of times or the worst of times. And yes, we as ninjas, we frame everything as an opportunity. But I want you guys to reflect on the uncertainty in front of us because I don't think that being naive about these things is ever useful. The knowledge that we can gain by awareness is practical, but we also need to do something about it. So as you guys think about uncertainty, what comes up for you?
One thing that affects uncertainty a lot is just a lack of a plan and a lack of a vision, either being for the industry or individually. And that's one of the things that I love so much about the Ninja Path is, again, it teaches you to be on purpose. So you plan your activities, you plan your years, you have business planning. It's not just waking up being on accident every day because the people that don't plan or that haven't seen let's call it a down cycle, if we will, are the ones that have the hardest time with change. Those of us that have been in the industry through a recession, a peak, COVID, we're pretty well seasoned. We know the sky isn't falling.
Yeah, we say in Ninja that it's a system that is designed to work regardless of your personality or regardless of the market that you're in. So whether you're in a seller's market, a buyer's market, a high interest rate market, a lower interest rate market, whatever market that you're in, even a commercial market or a luxury market or a resort market, I think we have a system that if you follow the system, you're going to be fine. You'll find a way to navigate that market. One of the things that it's important, it goes back to Stephen Covey's 3 circles. The outer circle is the circle of concern. middle circle, circle of influence, and the center circle is the circle of control. With the uncertainty, it's easy to get sucked into the outer circle, the circle of concern. I'm concerned about interest rates. I'm concerned about politics. I'm concerned about these different things. It's okay to be concerned about that, but focus on what you can actually control and the people that you can influence, which is your clients, your coworkers. If you're in leadership, your people, focus on that and focus on following the systems, and you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, what I hear you say is it's not really about the broader market in some cases. It has to do with your market. What is the market that you can have control over, the market of your people and the change going on in their lives? And are you paying attention to that? Or are you stuck in the noise of interest rates and politics and things that are really outside of that?
There is so much training out there in the real estate industry. And I feel there's so much that focuses on sales skills and things like that. It's a difficult job. It's very rewarding, but it does have its challenges. If you don't have the right mindset going into it, it doesn't matter what you're being trained. And that's one of the things that I love so much about the Ninja Path is it focuses on mindset. Because I can teach an agent all day long skills and how to do a listing presentation. If their mind's not in it, it will reflect in their presentation and how they serve their clients.
Yeah. What a mindset reset too. Hit rewind, listen to Larry Kendall talk about Stephen Covey's 3 circles one more time. That is the mindset reset right there, right? Honing in on what it is that I can actually control. And that's the foundation of the ninja mindset. As we talk about the best of times and worst of times, where do you both think we are right now? What is the vibe? What's going on? And taking that into consideration, given your history, right? So we know the vast majority of associates have gotten into this business in the last 10 years, with even a majority of that majority being in the last 5 years. You carry so much history. Where does this environment rank compared to the things that you've experienced?
Probably my first difficult time in real estate. It was probably right around that 2007, 2008. I was on the building side. Things were not great. Building companies were closing. I think we're in much better shape than that. And I'm kind of speaking a little bit maybe on the Houston market because that's what I see every day. But, we still have positive job growth in Texas and in Houston. Rates coming down are now going to enable those people that wanted to upsize or downsize to do it because they weren't going to leave a 3% interest rate for a 7.5 or an 8. So that's freeing it up. So I think the biggest thing is just uncertainty. We don't know where rates are going. The political landscape is very, very unstable at the moment as far as how the economy is going to react to it. But the thing, and it's why we are so blessed in this business is, and let me just pick on luxury boat dealers. When times get hard, I would imagine their sales will plummet because it's a luxury item. The beauty about our industry is everyone needs housing and everyone's going to be buying housing, whether it's their first home, downsizing, upsizing, et cetera. We have a product that, number one, everyone always needs. And what's even better for helping us kind of spread the gospel of our industry and how things really are is we're in an industry that people like to talk about. No matter good market, bad market, high rates, low rates, everybody wants to. So it's not, we're not maybe one of the other traditional salespeople that has to try to weave their product into a conversation. People know what we do and generally they will ask. It's a great door opener. So I remain optimistic. Again, the economy is a big concern of where we're going to go with tariffs and things like that and how that affects affordability. And if cost of living goes up, but rates come down, what's going to be the effect of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And in parallel with that, if you paint that worst of times picture, the best of times is that very little of that actually impacts whether people get married, whether they have kids, whether they die, whether they move for a job. All of the things that we know affect people's real estate. And yes, those are contributing factors. And I don't want to live in denial of the realities. However, they are not the only focus.
Yeah, you can look at the market cycles over the years, like Paul was saying. I can remember selling real estate in 1980, 81, 82 with 17% mortgage rates and 21% prime rates. We made it through that. And then we had in the late 80s, early 90s, we had the savings and loan crisis. And you thought you had a loan and your lender goes out of business. I remember working through that. Then, of course, in the early 2000s, we had the subprime lending and all of that. So, you have to know how to surf, I guess, these cycles. focusing on, again, what you can control, having a good system. You'll navigate, you'll be a good surfer and make it through those. One thing that Paul and I were talking about before we got on this podcast was just the mechanics of transactions now are so much easier. I can remember back in the day when I wanted to go show a house, I would have to call and make an appointment on a landline. There were no cell phones. I would drive across town and pick up a key at a real estate office, drive all the way across town the other way to show a house, have to drive back to take back the key. If we wanted to prepare a contract, our assistant would type it out on an IBM Selectric 2 with 5 carbons. If we wanted to list a house, we had to provide a photo. Again, our assistant would type out the MLS form and then drive it down to the Board of Realtors office to turn it in so that it could be produced in an MLS book. I mean, you look at all that today with the internet, with computers, with cell phones, with electronic signatures. Everything is so much easier right now than it ever was.
Yeah, there's a reality check in there. How many of you right now have a quarter in your pocket? Because if you didn't and you were back then, you wouldn't be able to list a house because you need a payphone to call and you'd need a quarter for that, right?
I had one of the first, they called them mobile phones. I had one of the first mobile phones in real estate in Fort Collins. It had a big suitcase in the trunk that was the electronics. It cost me $2,400.
And about $4 a minute.
$3 or $4 a minute. Yeah. And my cell phone bill each month was more than my house payment.
Wow.
And that was the biz, So, I mean, come on. Today, there's so much less friction in doing a transaction today just because of the mechanics.
So I have a question for you, Larry. Do you feel that proving our value was easier or harder back then? Because I think back then your job was diluted with a lot of tasks that have been automated, whereas now we try to focus our value on the negotiation and pricing and things like that. So I could almost see you had a whole laundry list of stuff you were doing back then that could prove value. But then I kind of feel like the focus nowadays is on getting the deal done.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, Paul, is that with the internet and with the technology now to do deals, you would think that there would be more for sale by owners because why would you need a realtor? You don't have to run around and chase down keys and all the stuff we were talking about today. Pretty much an owner could do that. And yet this last year, they've kept track of this since 82. The smallest percentage in history of people sold their house themselves. So I think what that says, back to your question, is that they're perceiving that there is tremendous value in pricing, in negotiating.
We actually just had an agent who her clients decided our average sales price in Houston is under 500. This house, I think it's about 1.4, decided to put it for sale by owner 2 days, called her and said, we don't know what we're doing. She put it on the market, sold it in 1 day. But, it's interesting because you think to yourself, how do you get through times of uncertainty? Well, number one, I think y'all offer it with waking up every morning with gratitude.
Uh-huh.
You can't face uncertainty with uncertainty. And I actually have 2 agents that one, ever since, let's look at the 2 different sides of a transaction, is a strong buyer's agent. And he is actually loving the settlement because it has forced the conversation of commissions and his conversion rate has skyrocketed. He even had a designated parking space for our top producers that he had never had before because he's having that conversation. Flip side has had another agent pass by and come sit and ask me a question. And she said, I'm just loving the settlement. Now, time wise, this was it's called 4 months after the settlement where we're still kind of unsure. And she said, yeah, I'm just loving this settlement. I'm waiting for the punchline. It's now made its way into jokes. And she said, ever since I've had to stop and explain compensation, I've never had as many full compensation listings before. And so again, it's approaching things with the right mindset, waking up with a sense of gratitude. And, Martha Turner, our founder, I'll never forget her saying, the morning she decided to get in real estate, she went to get the newspaper and it said rates hit, I think it was 21%. And she said she sold in that market and every other market since then.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's true that the worst of times create the best of times, but create is the magic word. And what you just said is if you stay rooted in the right mindset and you have some skills, let's talk about evolving your skills, because navigating around and seeing the opportunity in the settlement and the conversations that you just highlighted, Another one is the sales meeting Larry just did on Monday, right? Of pricing skills, technical skills, things like pricing on the bridge, repositioning conversations. Talk a little bit about how you can't just mindset your way out of the worst of times, but you can't get out without the mindset. You're going to need skills and actions.
Yeah, you're going to have to show how you create value for people. Paul's story about the compensation and so on reminds me in 2021 at the height of the multiple offer market, I was at a party one evening and this person knew that I was in real estate. And I think he was trying to get under my skin a little bit. He came up and he says, just so you know, we're going to sell our house ourselves. And I said, well, good for you. He says, yeah, I want to save the fee. And I said, you can save the fee. I said, in this market, if you put a sign out in front of your house right now, you'll have multiple offers within 24 hours. You don't need a realtor to sell your house. And the look on his face was like, well, aren't you a realtor? And I says, no, you don't need, in this market, you don't need a realtor to sell your house. What you need a realtor for is to get you to the top of the range for your house. Anybody can sell a house. Your biggest expense is the money you don't make in this market. It's not the fee. You think that's the expense, but it's not. And the look on his face, and in the Ninja installation, we teach the value clarification question. I said, do you believe your home will sell for a fixed price, or do you believe it will sell in a range of value based on the marketing and negotiating skills of your realtor? And the look on his face and the pause, you go, I never thought of it that way. Well, that's what we do. Our goal is to generate more in value for them than what they pay us in a fee. That's the bottom line. We should be able to articulate that to them.
Larry Kendall 101, in order to articulate your value, you must first create value.
Yeah.
As the director of agent growth at Martha Turner Sotheby's International Realty, as the founder and leader of the group for many, many years, you guys not only have to think your own way from worst of times to best of times, but you're guiding people down this path. In that role, what is working? What do you both see working right now as it relates to a leader in an organization? And, maybe it's lead by example, but there's so much more than that. What's working for you right now?
A lot of times when it comes to uncertainty is things as simple as just lending a sympathetic ear. And some stories of, yes, this has happened. It's cyclical. I love telling when agents come in and they're in a slump, a story about an agent that I was really good friends with, literally right next to me in our old office. I run into him at the car wash one day. Of course, we have to talk about real estate because we don't know how to talk about anything else. And he asked if I was busy. And I said, man, I'm slammed. There's just not enough hours in the day to get this done. I don't know how I'm going to do it. How about you? And he said, I'm dead. I got nothing going on. 2 or 3 months later, everything I had worked on had closed. And I go in and I said, man, it caught up with me. So what are you talking about? I said, I'm dead now. And he said, I can't talk to you. I've got 2 offers I've got to put in and 3 new listings going live. And so it's just convincing them it's cyclical. The biggest thing is whether it's economic uncertainty or maybe if the agents are doubting themselves, it's just redefining the belief in themselves and that this one segment of time or this one client that they might be having issues with is not a reflection on their abilities or inabilities. And so we've been doing a lot of that, a lot of kind of back to the basics. I host a ninja skills class for my agents and some of the surrounding brokerages and just get them all on the same page and just kind of go over. We have a pretty strong education program where we're every quarter doing a pricing class, listing presentation class, technology class. So the big thing also is if it's going to be a slower time, this is the time to double down on marketing, double down on your business and train. The best agents I've seen are the ones that are years and years older than me and still show up to every class. And it just becomes a good mix. So just a lot of mentoring and a lot of getting them to believe in themselves again, which, I will say if they've been through an installation, it is an easier process for a couple of reasons. Number one, because they have some mindset training. And if they've been in the program and they're working the system, they're probably not in my office in the first place, experiencing a slump as much as other people are.
As a leader right now, it's important anytime, but even more importantly right now is connection. To stay connected to your people so they feel like they're not out there alone. You're there for them. You're there to help them, to coach them, to encourage them. I think that's important. The second part of that is to remind them that they're farmers, not hunters and gatherers. And that if they work the system, it's kind of like a farmer plants seeds. It takes a while for the seeds to germinate, sprout, to grow and have a harvest. And whatever they're doing today, they may not see a harvest for another 30 to 60 days, but they've got to plant the seeds right now. So many of them are panicking and they want to run out and be like a hunter, kill something and drag it home and eat it that night. And so they don't plant the seeds. And I think that's important to remind them of how that works and show them examples in your company of people that have been working the system and all at once now they're having a harvest. I like the word grit because my definition of the word grit is the commitment to work the program, knowing that it works, but not knowing when the payoff's going to be. So often, if we do something for 2 or 3 days or for 2 or 3 weeks and it doesn't work right away, then we give up on it. And we want to run out and buy leads or, do other things that I was going to say maybe a short-term solution. I'm not sure that's even a short-term solution in this market. I think the people are learning that in this market, the only thing that really works is relationships. Just running out and buying leads isn't necessarily the solution.
I found, especially during times when things start to slow a little bit, it's the first thing, because, all the lead generation companies start upping their calls to the agents.
Right.
And the first thing I always tell them is, okay, how much are they going to charge you? Okay, how many past clients or people on your sphere of influence could you take out for lunch or dinner or coffee for that? Let's do that first.
You guys want to shift gears? Unscripted, unplanned. How about a lightning round? I'm going to ask you guys some questions.
Mm-hmm.
You each get a quick response.
Okay.
Move on to the next one. You ready for this? All right. All this experience, decades of experience. You choose who goes first. What did we used to do and don't do today that we should start doing again?
Yes, I'm sitting in the building of ninja selling. But again, going back to the handwritten notes, the personal touches that so many people are missing these days. And again, if we're talking about creating relationships, that's how we're going to do it. We're not going to do it with TikTok videos. Social media is a good marketing tool, but getting back to building the relationships, doing the cards, being there for the clients. I always tell my clients when it comes tax time, offer to pull comps, offer to go down to the appraisal district with your clients, show the value, show the service, because I guarantee you most agents aren't.
I was just going to say one word, relationships. I think that the market of 2011 to 2021, we got too focused on transactions, not necessarily building relationships. I think that we've got to get back to that. And I think that old school is new school again.
Yep. You have 30 seconds with an agent who's down in the dumps, thinking about leaving the business. What's the one thing you would ask them or say to them to determine if they're worth investing in?
I would ask them if they're feeling like a victim or a player right now. Nobody wants to be a victim. And so I've watched that change their energy. And I think that, okay, if you want to be a player, then let's talk. What are the actions a player would take to get back on the path?
Okay, so you just sidetracked my answer by saying that, because that is the one piece of an installation that changed my life in the first day, like first half of it. I'll never forget going up to Melanie saying, "You just changed my life." It was a time in my life where I had a victim card and I had it glued to my forehead and I loved showing it off. And when she went through the victim or player, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, I am tired of being a victim. It's time to be a player.
Wow.
Yeah. I would probably say if an agent that was in a slump, which sometimes you have to define what a slump is. I had a trainer tell me one time it's saying negative things, lazy, unmotivated, majoring in the minor, and pity city was the acronym for slump. I think probably my first question would be, are you passionate about this business? People that are only solely in it for the money and not the service of client are the ones that burn out the easiest. And when that payday's there, they don't have the reason. They don't have their why, essentially why they're in the business. And I'll never forget a friend of mine had sat down for coffee with Ebby Halliday, who was the Martha Turner of Dallas. And I think she was still their designated broker at 99. She passed away, I think, at 104, 105. And this friend of mine said, what's the best advice you can give me to wrap up your whole life in real estate? And she said, don't do it for the dollar, do it for the service, and the dollar will follow. And I think agents that only kind of because they might watch these real estate shows think, I'll just get in this and make $1 million and it's easy. And when that segment's not there, it's gone. One of my last transactions, because we're non-competing managers, people had this adorable 3-year-old girl, and I got a plastic play kitchen. I had it in the home for after closing when they went back. And they sent me a video of this little girl. Thank you, Mr. Paul. And she's playing in her kitchen. Like there's not a lot of rewards like that in other industries. So if you don't enjoy that aspect and the people part of it, the second the money's not there, they're going to dry up.
I think to bridge the gap between the experience that you have and the relevance that you still both maintain, there has to be this willingness to change the way you think and learn new things, right? So last question of the lightning round, what belief or skill or what has changed for you in the last year based upon the way you thought it was done versus the way you think today?
I would probably say the biggest change I've seen in the past year is the implementation of AI. Still now people think it's, Big Brother is watching. No, it's all about making yourself more efficient. And, there's a question I have in my AI presentations of, is AI coming to take a realtor's job? And the answer is 100% yes. But it's not that we're going to be replaced by computers. It's, let's say Larry is using AI to make himself more efficient, and he has 8 more hours a week that he can make calls, do real estate reviews, etc., while I'm over here doing this just super basic office work. That's taking me out of the business. So it's not that AI is going to replace me, but people that are going to be more efficient, like let's say Larry in this case would replace me. But I tell my agents all the time, use it because your clients are using it. So if you have a listing or if you're representing a buyer, what would this home sell for? It might not be accurate. It probably isn't going to be accurate, but at least you know the information. Because in the past, we worried about, okay, the uncle 4 states away that bought a home 20 years ago is giving him bad advice. That might or might not still be there, but what they are pulling out of ChatGPT, they are taking that as the gospel. So whereas the uncle, like, who knows, they might be relevant and might not. When that spits out a price, they're going with that, and you've got to prove them otherwise. So, I think just the amount of time it saves. Even in my Ninja Skills class, I bring in a little bit of AI. Just, if you want to write the personal notes and you just have a creative block, put in there, you're still reaching out in a very personal way, but it kind of bridges some of those creativity gaps.
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things is the future of real estate based upon the demographics. So we have this huge generation of people that should be buying houses right now that haven't. It used to be the average first-time buyer was 28 years old. Now they're 38 years old. So there's been a 10-year lag there due to affordability, interest rates, a lot of other things. But that demand is still there. That pent-up demand is there, and it's going to be coming. I think the other demographic is my generation, the baby boomer generation, has $80 trillion of wealth that will be transferred to that generation. And so I think a lot of people say, well, how are they going to buy houses if the interest rates don't come down? I'm seeing right now parents, grandparents providing down payments, in some cases providing the first mortgages. And I think that's an opportunity that we need to take a look at. I always say, ask somebody, what do you earn? Because that's how they qualify for a loan. What do you have? How much cash do you have? But also ask, who do you know? Do you have family? Do you have a brother, a sister, a parent, a grandparent who can help you with this? That's going to be even a bigger part of the future of real estate.
That's a wonderful one, truly. To summarize what we've talked about, a lot of it came down to looking at signals over noise, that there are relevant things that are happening around us, and those are signals. There are irrelevant things that fit in the outer circles. That feels like noise. At the end of the day, it's all rooted in victim versus player, and we need to bring that player energy. And that as leaders of organizations, I think you both provided some really interesting perspective around what that means, what victim versus player is. Is there anything else that you guys want to leave the ninjas with?
GSW.
Yeah, I mean, I see it every day. I had an agent that was having a listing that's having a hard time. What got it sold? Seller offer. That's what got it sold. I mean, when I interview agents, I give them a copy of the Ninja Selling book and tell them, if you or I, if we feel this is not a good fit, take this. This is the best piece of advice I have to give you. Read it.
Yeah, I think what it all comes down to is the question of, is this the best of times or worst of times, is entirely a matter of perspective.
It's a market you create in your own mind.
I think every day is another day in paradise. I think it's the best of times.
There you go. Well, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you so much. We'll be talking to you soon.
If you enjoyed this episode, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com to learn more about ninja selling classes and coaching to get you started or further your journey on the ninja path.
Thank you for joining us. Now go have an incredible day.